All right, I think we're good. Yay! I'm just testing out my new camera. I was using my cell phone for the hobby camera, and obviously it wasn't the best idea I ever had. Let's make sure I've got everything going. I like to test everything. I'm kind of weird like that. I've got everything going. I like to test everything. Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good. Hopefully everybody can hear me all right. We're going to paint some defenders, and as you can see right here, well, maybe you can't because that handsome devil's not on the screen yet. Let's see. Can we, boop, make you just a bit bigger? There we go. All right, so we'll hold them up. This is our color scheme we're going to be working with. This is the Marine that I used. Uh, he's painted yellow. It wasn't necessarily because I hate iron or imperial fists or anything. There was no reason to it other than I needed the base to have a splash of color, and yellow just seemed like the right color. So that's what we're gonna do though. It's a base coat of Incubi Darkness, and then the lighter colors are Wraithbone. We're gonna work on just getting the base coats on a lot of stuff today, and we'll worry about highlights and shading and everything later. I'm gonna warn everybody that's watching. I'm an average painter at best. I try hard, but I didn't always try hard. So it's one of those where I'm probably not as good as I should be for as long as I've been doing this, and I can admit that. That's fine. I started off learning how to paint fast rather than how to paint well. So a lot of my miniatures are just like they're good enough. We'll do some what you call it. It's a lot of just like let's do a base coat and a quick dry brush and be done with it. Contrast paints were the bee's knees. Uh, and a lot of that really just stems from I took a big break, you know. I started in third edition and played through fourth, stopped in fifth, jumped over to fantasy, and I think I've given everybody like my history before. Stopped in fifth, jumped to fantasy for a few years while I was in the military, and when I finally came back over to the hobby, I had already become self-employed. I had already started kind of building my own business, and my hours were long, and I just didn't have a ton of time to hobby. So when I needed stuff painted, I had to get good at painting fast. So I had to basically just, you know, speed paint, and I had a lot of orcs and had to speed paint a lot of those. Some of them were super old, like, gosh, I probably had orc models that were 20 plus years old. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to effectively apply the Incubi Darkness pretty much everywhere, if we're being honest. I can always paint over it. I'm doing a really thin coat, and I'm going to do a second coat here in a bit. That's what we're going to do is we're going to do a bunch of these handsome, handsome elves. Um, I'm not going to hit that. Well, I guess I could hit the helmet, but I'm not worried about doing the helmet because the helmet's going to be Wraithbone. And again, I'm not going to worry about this guy or lady, whatever it is, uh, because it's the arms look like they're bare. I don't know if you can see it, but they look like they don't have sleeves. Got some Predator elf action going. It's just Arnold Schwarzenegger the elf. But so we're just gonna hit everybody with a quick coat of Incubi Darkness. This is one of my favorite colors that GW makes, which is weird. It's not a color I think most people, myself included, would be like, hey, that's definitely a color Chris likes. But oddly enough, Incubi Darkness and Screamer Pink, I love both of those colors. I had started doing a Gene Stealer cult army before we started doing the Twitch stuff, and I ended up selling it. Actually, is what happened because I didn't necessarily. I liked the army, but I didn't like that it didn't have words are tough. I didn't like that it didn't have variety. So, you know, I think there's like, I don't know, 25 data sheets in that whole codex, and it was something like 12 or 13 of them were characters, and that is not how I like to play. So it was, I like that the army required a lot of precision, and it was like a very technical army. I did enjoy that, but I didn't enjoy having, you know, 5 characters every time I played a game. That's not the way I like to play. I tend to run lists that are kind of light on characters, even for armies that require them. You know, Sisters tend to be very character hungry and heavy, and I try to limit how many characters I run. And it's really just because I just don't like Hero Hammer. So it's one of those where even if it's not Hero Hammer and there are a lot of support characters, like something about it just makes me think of the old Hero Hammer of like fantasy, and 8th edition was real bad for it for certain armies. Like Marines were terrible for Hero Hammer. Like, you took troops just so you had an excuse to bring Smash Captains, and I just, that's not how I like to play. I want my army to function like an army. And I think because of that, like that leads into why I build lists the way that I do. And that might be why, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a bad player at this game. I'm not, the best either. I would imagine that I'm pretty solid. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I'm the best and 1 being I don't even know how to play the game. If I had to rate myself, I'd probably put myself somewhere around a 6, you know? I think I'm a little bit better than average, and a lot of that just stems from playing a lot when I ran my store. But what we were getting at with this was, I build every list in a battalion. Literally everything I do is done based out of a battalion, and I think a lot of that is just because of who I am. A D plus on ratings. Oh no, I'm not good. What do I need to change there, buddy? I know who you are. What's up, Jimmy? 6 out of 10. Oh, gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But if I was a lady, a 6 out of 10, like, would smash. Just saying. And you'd be lying if you said you wouldn't. And I probably shouldn't say that on stream. But how's life in the accounting world, buddy? Yeah. But yeah, that's what we're doing. Just base coating these. I'm like Bob Ross if Bob Ross was stocky and handsome and actually couldn't paint. Yeah, that is a perk. Um, I should be getting a shipment of Games Workshop terrain here pretty soon because I'm on their build team now also, and I absolutely plan on streaming while I build that. And I had to make sure that they weren't gonna like shut me down or do anything crazy for it because I was streaming on the clock, and they were just like, nah, dude, like, have fun, do your thing. Like, it gives us publicity, you get to stream, everybody wins. And I was like, yeah, all right, that's cool. Like, I fully expected them to be like, nah, dude. I mean, the main thing with them is that I just have to make sure I'm letting people know that my stream is not Games Workshop affiliated. Like, I'm not getting any money from them. I'm not supported by them for the stream itself, which is fine. I don't think anybody assumes that. Coincidentally, speaking of the accounting world, so I don't know if you know this, Jimmy, but I'm in college still. I'm getting my business degree, and I've had to take an accounting class. sure it's not the last one I'll ever take, but I'm not gonna lie, dude. Like, that is some of the worst schoolwork I've ever done in my life. Like, my hat's off to you, because I don't know how you do that every day, other than, it probably pays the bills and probably pays them pretty well. But yeah, yeah, debits and credits it is, my friend. I've learned a lot. I tell you, when I first started that class, I was completely lost because, like, doing everything for the store, like, I never studied accounting. I just kept track of, like, my bank accounts and stuff. Like, I never learned gap accounting or anything like that. So when we're doing this class and they're like, "Well, you got to do this and then you got to log it here and then over here you log it again." And I'm just like, "Why are we doing this everywhere? I don't understand." And man, like, my brain actually struggled with it for a bit. Uh, and I'm definitely not an expert on it, but at least I'm not just like staring like a fish every time we're doing coursework, just like totally lost. I'm sure. I have no doubts about that. That's generally been my experience with most things that they teach in school. It's not that the source material is bad, or not that the things that you need to learn are bad, but the way it's approached is bad. That's usually what I've noticed. Like, sociology could be a very useful subject or class, but because of the way it's approached, like, it's A, super boring, and B, uh, it really just, like, will shut off half the class. You know, you're going to get half the class that's like, yeah, this is awesome because, and then you're going to get the other half of the class that's like, this is totally worthless. And, like the sociology class that I have right now, um, man, I'm trying not to get into it too much, but it's a lot of just like, you should feel this way because people have done this to other people in the past and it influences how we interact in the future. And I don't want to touch on any of it. Like I said, I want to try to keep this as amicable as I can, uh, you know. But it's one of those where, like, from my perspective, my family's only been in America for so long. These are not issues that my family was ever really a part of. And, you know, you want me to care about these things, and it's really hard for me to. Like, I have my own problems in life. So yeah, no, I think you're right. I think the way it's presented is generally the issue, not that the book or the subject itself is bad, but it's generally presented poorly based on, like, what the professor feels or thinks about that specific subject. And I've only had a handful of classes that weren't like that. Like, even math is that way. And I don't hate math, but like, just basic math courses and stuff, because they're just presented in a, here's a bunch of problems, solve them. Yeah, all right. Like, why don't I just go hang myself too? Because it would take less time and be a lot more fun. It's probably going to be a YouTube strike talking about hanging myself. They're going to come after me. Speaking of, we hit 50 subscribers. That was awesome. I was able to give away a free t-shirt to Adam Brazel. And that's really cool because I know Adam. Actually, I probably know almost every single one of my subscribers, with it being at 50 right now. But it's really cool because I know him and he's a super good dude. And I like being able to, like, do that, be able to say, hey, Adam, you got this free t-shirt. You're an awesome guy and I'm glad you won it. Our next goal is going to be 100 subscribers. I don't know what kind of giveaway we're going to do for that yet. I'm going to take some time and think about it. If I was feeling really saucy, I would buy one of those, God, what's that? Leagues of Votan boxes. But I think any like any big giveaway like that, I think we need more than 100. I think we need to like up the game for that. I don't know if anybody has seen the Leagues of Votan rules leaks and stuff, but that army, it's going to be a little silly. You know, they've got, I think all of their troops. I don't know if any of the other models do, but I know the troops do have like Armor of Contempt. You know, they just reduce all AP by 1. Um, and again, that's such a weird rule. Because being an orc player, like most of the orc stuff did not get any kind of AP bonuses. Like there's a handful of things that did. Like boys went to neg 1 rend, and they honestly kind of needed to because 30 boys going into like 5 assault marines did not feel good. Just because it was like here's my 30 boys, and then it was like I guess I might kill one. Yeah, no, the models are super cool, and I love that the truck. That truck is ridiculous. And there's a good chance I end up with one of those trucks and it becomes some sort of orc model because that's who I am as a human. I've got a oh, it's not right here next to me, but I've got a Invictor warsuit that I've been working on turning into a Death Dread, so that's just kind of who I am as a person, which you know that already. But no, the Psyker model's super cool, and all the models are nice looking. And I'll be honest, like I just don't like dwarves, man. Every Games Workshop game, I have just hated dwarves. And maybe I shouldn't. I shouldn't have the dwarf hate. But I do. They're always just like super boring. And I'll be honest, I don't know how they interact in Age of Sigmar because it's not a game I play. But they're just super boring. In Warhammer Fantasy, it was like everybody that played dwarves. Well, here's my cannons. I just have cannons, all the cannons, and then here's my 3 squads of dudes that are just gonna walk slowly up the board, and all they're gonna do is just like march slowly because all I need to do is just shoot you with my cannons, and it's super boring. It was such a boring interaction. Hey, what's up? Super super boring interaction. And Blood Bowl, man. I hate dwarves in Blood Bowl. Like, don't get me wrong, they're beatable, but they're just terrible and boring to play against. Because again, like everybody literally just plays them the same way. You don't really see any variety. It's just like, well, here's my dwarves. They all have guard, and I'm just gonna build a cage around the ball and move like 2 squares a turn. Like, bro, if I wanted to play a 1-player game, I wouldn't be playing Blood Bowl. So I just have this bad kind of connotation or bad kind of opinion of dwarves already based on the way Games Workshop represents them in games. So I was already like expecting them to be kind of silly and just be like, yeah, all right. I'm glad they have this rule. So like the Armor of Contempt, again, it just feels bad playing an army that didn't get a lot of AP buffs going from 8th to 9th. And then the token mechanic, so I'm mixed on that. Like, it's pretty neat. I forget what they're called, but there's some kind of token, and you can get them by performing an action. And I don't know if they've released like the duration of that action, but if that shit's like marker lights, like no thank you. I'll pass. That's gonna be a no from me, dog. If it's like this action starts at the end of your movement phase and ends at the beginning of your shooting phase, and you just get to put a token on something, like, cool. Because what it does is, if you have 1 token, you auto wound on a hit roll of 6. And then if you have 2 wounds, or 2 tokens, I believe it's 5. And then if you have, yeah, judgment tokens, thank you. If you have 2 wounds, I believe it's 5. Or tokens, not wounds. I don't know why I keep saying wounds. And then 3 of them is 4, and I think that's where it caps is 4. But a lot of the units are like ballistic skill 4. So it's basically, hey, if you hit, you auto wound. We're just gonna skip one whole part of this step. And I'm just like, this seems a little dumb. Now I do know that the army looks like it's basically a lot of infantry and not a lot of vehicles. Oh, and the army, the troops, again, they have what I forget what it's called, it's like void armor. And that's what gives them armor of contempt. And then if I remember right, it also prevents rerolls for hits and wounds against them. So again, it's just that in and of itself. And I think Tyler said it best. He was like, "Hey, at least it's not going to affect orcs," and he's not wrong. Like anything that shuts off rerolls does not affect orcs at all. I'm just like, yeah, all right, whatever. Imagine having rerolls, you silly geese. All right. So these are getting their second coat. You can't even tell they got the first one now that they've dried up a little bit, but that's okay. Because I think for the troops, we are just going to kind of dry brush. And then we'll go through. And I don't know. Maybe I don't have the best system, but I tend to do everything like one color at a time. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to paint all this incubi, and then I'm going to kind of highlight or dry brush over the incubi. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to do like whatever flesh tones I need to, and then highlight and shade that, and then I'm going to go through and do whatever. Like that's just kind of the order of operations I do everything in. And again, it may not be the best. I don't know. It's just kind of the way I've started doing things because I found it's easier for me to go back and clean up my mistakes then. Also, I want to look and see here in a minute if these have any kind of color variations. Like, I don't know. I know their helmets are different colors typically, their guns are different colors typically, but I need to see if their little antenna things on their backpacks are different colors, their power pack or whatever you want to call it. Has anybody out there, have any of you watched the battle report on Warhammer Plus? I haven't seen it yet, but my buddy Kyle watched it and he kind of let me know. My plan is to watch it today and see how that goes. I mean, I already know how it ends, and it ends exactly how I thought it would. But it's on there, and the Votan wins. But to be fair, they were playing against Guard, and I know Guard is generally considered a poopy army. It's been a while since I've looked through their codex, especially with all the buffs that they've gotten. But competitively, it sounds like they're still kind of just poopy. They're still not winning a ton of games. But I don't know. Yep, that's what I thought. It's only up to 3. Awesome. Hey, while you're looking stuff up, you want to let me know if Eldar Defenders, if they're all basically one color, or if their backpacks have color variation aside from their little antenna. If not, no big deal. I'll Google it in a couple seconds here. I just want to get this all done. But got to get those cheeks all painted up. There we go. Sometimes I wish I was an attractive lady. You guys would be all kinds of excited to watch me paint. Instead, you gotta look at this. Start selling my bath water like some sort of weirdo. Although I don't know if it's weirder to sell it or if it's weirder to buy it. Like, I guess probably buying it. It's fucking bizarre. People are weird. Anyway. No, just do a Google search of Guardian Defenders, and then I'll just look it up. Give me a second. There we go. All right. Because I know exactly what I'm looking for. Guardian Defenders. Images. Nope, they're basically just all one color aside from the gun and the helmet. That's what I thought. Okay. Well, let's look at this real quick. No twitchy here, sorry. Yeah, all right, Josh, you liar. All right, cool. Well, yeah. That's for I forget what faction it is. I just needed to know if the whole body was that color or if there were like pieces of the body that were typically different colors. Obviously, I'm not painting mine red. We're doing Incubi Darkness, and we're doing Wraithbone. I don't think the Wraithbone's going to cover this white or black super good, so we're probably going to have to put like a thin coat of Xandri on it first. I think that's what we're going to have to do, which will work because I'll do the flesh and Xandri first also. Again, I'm not a great painter, so don't look to me for painting tips. I'll tell you how I do things all day long, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's the right way or best way to do them. I get by, you know. All right, so let's get. We probably need Xandri. That's probably where we want to go to next. Hit that mac and cheese, son. Uh, so stupid. All right, these are brand new, so let's soap them up. I need to like get out there and get some decent brushes. I really do. Instead of these cheap ones I keep buying. And it's not because I don't like want decent brushes. I just Hobby Lobby is really close, you know. I really need to break down and just order a bunch of army painter brushes. Those are super good, and they're not too expensive. These are, oh my gosh, like this is pretty terrible. I'm waiting on Army Painter to start giving me that sponsorship, yo. I'll be waiting a long time. They'll be like, this dude, I don't want his painting representing our products. Get out of here. I'll be like, hey, it's fair. This might be way too big of a brush, actually. I think we need a smaller one. I didn't realize how big that was. That one is dummy thick, as the kids say. Well, we've got this nice brush, so we'll use it. So I actually really like a lot of Citadel products. They do tend to be a little overpriced. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I do like them. They tend to be good. I can't think of too many where I've been like, this is just trash. I've heard mixed things on their brushes. I've heard, some dudes that are really good at painting that are like, I'll only use Citadel because they're really good. I've heard dudes that are like, well, Citadel are actually really bad and I prefer this. And that's fine. I've not had any issues with them kind of like falling apart once I started using the brush soap. That stuff has really helped prolong the life of all my brushes. All right. Yeah. So, and then talking to some guys like a guy named Brian that I know, he's been really invaluable as a resource for helping me just understand how to care for my brushes better. And I'm probably still not great at that either, but uh, he's been good. What's everybody else working on? I know we got Jimmy was working on accounting. Lucky devil. Is it Tyler? Yeah, no, and that's it, man. I've had some of the Citadel brushes I've had for a long time. The only brushes they've made that I've not been super impressed with are the white ones. I don't remember. They're like the artificial ones or whatever. I don't know what the difference is. Um, and really, it's just because like they fell apart real fast. Even with the brush soap and stuff. Like I just had bad interactions with them. You know, they were a little cheaper, but like not cheap enough to justify them kind of like not sticking together. Man, maybe I could have used this bigger brush. Not sticking together better than they did. We're just doing a quick Xandri, and that's just to help make that wraith bone kind of show up better. And we'll hit his little handy here. Yeah, interesting. I will have to, give those a try at some point for contrast. Like I said, I've just had bad experiences with them, and I don't know if it's something. And I'm not gonna say the brushes are bad. I'm just saying like I've had bad experiences with it, and it's honestly probably something I could be doing differently to get a better interaction with them. Um, so I'm not gonna sit here and say they're garbage or anything. I just not sure what I could do differently to get better life out of them. So, uh, and contrast paint, I've got to get some more of that at some point. That stuff is awesome for getting things painted in a relatively quick amount of time and still having it look pretty solid. I mean, that was definitely a staple before the fire, when I was having to speed paint everything. Remember when I said I typically highlight and then move on to the next color, and then I did not do that at all? Little splash over there. Yeah, for sure. If you've got a lot of stuff that you're just like, hey, I want to get this painted, it is definitely awesome for that. And I like. Yep. All right, that's fine. We'll just have to touch him up. I like and I like the variety of colors, especially now. Like there's a good variety of colors. I never. So like my orcs. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Uh, like my orc skin was not the orc flesh. It was the what's gosh, one of the camos actually, and I can't remember which one it is now. I actually have it right here. Give me a second. I feel like it's balls, not Creed. Maybe it's Creed camo. Militarum green. That's what it is. Yes, and contrast through airbrush is awesome. What's the Volupus pink is amazing going through an airbrush. Would recommend 10 out of 10. But no, Militarum green is like my go-to for painting orc flesh. I like it. I like that it gives a more kind of like muted tone to them instead of that deep kind of dark green. I definitely dig that a lot. That Gene Stealer cult army I had, that's how I painted a lot of them, was just airbrushing Volupus pink, and then it was, what was it, Volupus pink, which is effectively Screamer pink, uh, Incubi darkness, and then Grey Knight steel. Like that was definitely my go-to for that. So we're probably gonna do these 4 here, and then we'll kind of move on to the other 4. Because if I do the same thing for too long, I start going crazy. And we're going to try a bigger brush. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I'm going to have to reinvest in an airbrush at some point. It's not high on my priority list right now. I don't even have like a good space for airbrushing at this point. All right, let's throw you there. Let's see, do we have one in the middle? That's real big, real big. Let's Flat. Let's try you. You better watch your mouth. This guy. Everybody's got jokes. And a teacher who used to say, 10,000 comedians out of work, and you're trying to be funny. He was an interesting human, for sure. It was such a odd, he was my art teacher, and it was such a weird interaction. He'd be like, he's super sarcastic. And, yeah, I just feel like this is going to be way too big. Maybe not. And he would never really give you detention. Yeah, I'm not digging this brush at all already. So let's get rid of you. Yeah, he would never give you detention or anything. This is probably the same damn brush I just had, honestly. He'd just be like, he would just knock 2% off your grade, and then you could earn it back by coming in at lunch and helping clean and stuff. And looking back on it, like, that was an ingenious system. Because, like, that dude probably never cleaned a damn thing. Tyler talking shit. Where is it? Oh, we got time. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Tyler, you ready? You ready to do the rest of that terrain? It's mostly done. It's just some last minute things. And I think that one dude is going to have. So there's a group of us that are going. Unfortunately, it looks like, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, it looks like I'll actually just be working it now instead of playing it. You know, being on their events team means that I get to not play at some of their events now. So like I think I'm running the kill team for the Chicago Open. I think that's going to be basically my new home for Games Workshop. But I was planning on going, and if I did go, I would have been probably playing my orcs, because that's just who I am as a human. And like what, Tyler, I think if you're talking about the terrain, it's just like some of the windows and stuff still need put in. I'm not super worried about the second and third floors, but all the first floor windows, the shades need put in so they're not wide open. Did I screw him up? I did. What a goon. That's all right. We'll come back and touch him up later. Dude, these elves are fucking shredded. They got mad cuts. Yeah, absolutely they pay me. I get paid, and because I'm a GW employee, I get the employee discount on products that I buy. And they pay for like my hotel and everything. They were going to fly me out to DC to work Nova, but Nova had very strict vaccine requirements, and I'm not vaccinated. I'm just a piece of shit, dude. Yeah, no, and it's not great. Like they don't. I'm not gonna get rich off of it or anything, but I can make a few $100 to work for the weekend at the event, and then also get the employee discount on my purchases and stuff. So it's a sweet gig. And then, like I said, I got put on their build team. So like I don't know how much it's gonna be, but I know it's a lot of terrain that they're gonna be sending me that I get to build and paint. Uh, and then I get paid. I don't know how the pay works on the build team. I don't know if they just pay me based on the job yet, but I do get paid for it. And that's what keeps me like as an employee, full time, part time, however you want to look at it. So I technically am a GW employee. I don't like blood clots in general, if we're being honest, especially not like in my veins and shit. Like they belong on the outside of my skin in the form of a scab. Um, and honestly, the big reason I never got vaccinated had nothing to do with the blood clots and stuff. Oh, yep, we're gonna have to touch this one up. I just did I? Yeah, I did a scan. I really just was waiting for a protein-based vaccine. You know, after all the time I spent in the military, we had to take these malaria pills while I was in Iraq, and this was basically an experimental drug, and nobody knew what the long-term effects were. And now there's a lot of studies that have come out that have said, hey, the long term effects of these malaria pills actually cause brain damage and can mimic the effects of PTSD and traumatic brain injury. So, like, not only am I just mildly retarded, um, I also have traumatic brain injuries that I suffered from my time in the military. I did suffer a few concussions and plus just getting blown up and shot at. And obviously post traumatic stress disorder. But then, in addition to all that, I also took these malaria pills, which will just compound everything. It'll just make it worse. Plus the anthrax vaccine, who knows what the hell that's going to do to me. So it's one of those where it was more just I've had enough people just jabbing me with random shit. Uh, and so I was just like, I'll just wait for the protein based vaccine. But honestly, after Nova not letting me go and Gen Con almost didn't let me go to work as well, they at the last minute decided to make an exception for some people. Like, I don't know if it was for everybody or if it was just for the workers, but they decided to do an exception where you could come with a negative test. And if you had a negative test within the last 48 hours, they would let you work. Uh, and so I was able to get through with that. But after almost not working Gen Con, and then in addition to that, not working Nova, I really just was like, you know what, I'm going to get this stupid vaccine, not because I want it, but because I don't want it to affect my ability to work. And it's not Games Workshop, it's not their policies, it's these events and these conventions and stuff that are setting these policies. So it was just like, man, I don't want to. Like, this is a job that I really enjoy, and the people I've worked with have been phenomenal. I don't want to continue to not be able to work with them. So I'm just going to get this stupid vaccine. So I got my first shot yesterday, actually, right? Day before. Uh, Day before. I think I got it Tuesday. Man, I tell you what, like, that shit put me on my ass. And I've had COVID 3 times, and I'd rather have COVID. Like, that was terrible. I got it in the morning and then had taken a nap in the afternoon. And then by the time I was done with my nap, was just like, God, I'm still tired. Like literally my whole day yesterday, I felt like I was just moving through sand and it was terrible. And I was talking to my brother Rich and I was just like, dude, this is stupid. Like I would rather just get COVID because 2 of the 3 times I got COVID, it was basically what I got from the vaccine. I was tired for a couple days, was still able to go and like do some light working out and stuff. I wasn't doing anything crazy, but I was still going and working out. Obviously at the time I had a home gym. Uh but yeah, no, and it was just like this is bonkers. So I don't know if that was because I've had COVID 3 times. Like my body was just like, we know what this is. This thing can go to hell. So it was a wild ride. Like today, I'm still feeling kind of poopy, but a lot better. Like if yesterday I was like 40%, today I'm probably 80%. And Sherry was, she's one of those people that wants to be doing stuff, You know, so like yesterday she was like, we should go to the Y. And I'm just like, sure. I'll be a zombie. We can go to the Y. And I got in the pool and like swam some laps and I thought I was going to die. But I don't know if that's because I'm just not used to swimming and I'm out of shape, or if it was because of the vaccine, or even just a combination of the two. It's probably a combo, but like let's not kid ourselves. Like I'm not in as good a shape as I used to be, although I have been getting in much better shape since not running the store. Like I found that I just have more time because I'm not working 14 hours a day. You know, and dude, that boy thick. That's what that lady told me. Damn boy, you thick. Yeah, you right. Oh no. She did too. She was very vocal about letting me know that I'm thick. Really, the biggest problem I have is that I really like beer. And it's not even just like I like to get drunk, because I don't necessarily like to get drunk. I just really enjoy the taste of most like good beers. Uh, but I've been cutting back on those. So I think I was starting to just like be puffy and retain water all the time because of it. And that's not good. Like when your whole face just looks like a basketball because you're all water retainy. Like, get out of here, you fat fuck. Probably can't say that. Somebody will be offended. I have no idea. I don't know how stream works. Like, no clue. I'm just making everything up as I go along. Right. That's white. I don't want white. I want Wraithbone. I do know there's certain things we can't say on stream. Right, Tyler? Alright. Let's see. Let's get some Wraithbone going. Now that we've Xandri dusted some of this. I don't know if I need to water this down, but we're gonna. That's actually a good question. I don't know if he is or not. While you're waiting for him to answer, I can tell you, Austin. I don't know if you've met Austin, Jimmy. I know some of your guys have. Super nice dude. Plays Eldar. Uh, I know he's going to the Open, and I know Alex is going to the Open because we were all going to go together. Um, and unfortunately, that's changed. But once I understand how the hotel situation works, like I may be hooking them up. Yeah, you are doing Adepticon. I remember you saying that. And I'm going to try to see if I can do Adepticon and work it. See if we can work something out there. That would be pretty neat. Jimmy, I know some of your guys are, like Brian is heading down to this one day ATC in Indy. Are you going down to that at all? That's at the end of this month. Correct. I agree with that, especially. Yeah, yeah, LVO. I'm hopeful that I'll actually be working that. That would be super cool. Um, you know, I don't know if I will be, but that's my hope. And it's all right. And, Adepticon is still fun. The missions are weird, and hopefully they kind of adjust them a little bit from last year. Like they really felt like they were 7th edition missions that they just kind of like threw into. a 9th edition game, and I know that they historically do their own thing. But it is a fun and good time. Like it's a lot of just like dudes getting around drinking beers and playing Warhammer, which is kind of cool. Like it is neat to see. Oh, okay, gotcha. Not LVO. I see. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's the same day as the one in Indy. Okay, so not even at all. All right. Oh, I did not want Wraithbone there, but I did want it up here. I feel like his head looks a little chalky. I wonder if I messed him up with some glue. Um, agree. 100% agree. Especially the weekend. I don't know how the like the tournaments going on during the week are, because they are a little bit different. But the weekend team tournament that was terrible. Like 100% agree. That was not a good experience. Like the player place terrain, I'm not a fan of anyway. Like I'll take it or leave it. But if I had to choose, I would choose to not have it. But that was definitely ass. And the fact that they just had like these big, huge footprints, and they had like 5 different terrain features on these footprints. So it was really hard to just like, hey, this is what we've got. Now, it did create some interesting thoughts in my head. Yeah, agreed. It's one of those though where, like I said, it did create some interesting thoughts in my head where I never thought about it. But there's no reason why you couldn't put like a ruin inside a forest, and that's interesting. And it's something I may play around with at some point, but not for a competitive event. Not until I've, you know, play tested it to see how it feels on the table. Um, Jimmy, you saw our stream game. How did you feel the terrain looked? And not like visually, but just the setup. Because that's going to be like a slight variation basically on the GW Open terrain that I have been kind of working on, and I want to kind of turn that into just a standardized layout. So I'll have like, I think 3 standardized layouts so that when I do run events, I can alternate them between tables. Like one table might have GW terrain, one table might have this weird variation of GW terrain, and then one table might have like that layout I made. Awesome, thank you. Yeah, that game was wild, man. I don't know how much of it you actually got to see, but it literally came down to the last turn. Uh, and I didn't realize it, but Twitch, there's a setting you have to change to get them to save your videos, and the default for that setting is to be off. So, that was one of those where, cool, I'm glad I know that now. Kind of sucks that I lost that video. Yeah, 1 point. It was wild. And all because he couldn't kill like those last handful of models. Like that miracle die and that reroll saved my ass. And I definitely picked some poopy secondaries. But sisters are fun. They're an army that I like using, but they're not like there's not a lot of versatility there. But they're interesting, and I have fun with them. I do want to kind of get away from Bloody Rose and explore some of the other factions, just because like Bloody Rose is a lot of what you see, and if you can find something that works in some of the other factions, you can do some weird stuff. Like you can kind of sneak some wins in because you're going to be set up for things that people aren't expecting. Um, I was looking at maybe like a Martyred Lady and running Junith because she's got a 6-inch aura of everything. All your infantry get light cover. So you can get just regular battle sisters, like a big mob of them can have a 2-up save and armor of contempt. So it's one of those where you can do some interesting things with them. You know, and there's some custom factions that are pretty solid. Like I would consider the one where you can't be wounded on 1s and 2s. You know, we obviously normally refer to that as like baby transhuman. And the reason I would consider that is because they're T3 models, you know, so like is pretty poopy on like orcs, you know, anything that's T5 or better, like kind of poopy. But when you've got T3 models, you know, not being able to be wounded on 2s is actually really good. Because there's a lot of strength 6 and higher in the game. You know, like a good example is Grey Knights. Like almost all the Grey Knights melee is strength 6. You know, I know they have like power swords, but I don't think I've ever seen them. I think I've only ever seen halberds. In every tournament I've ever gone to, I think I've only ever seen halberds. Yep, we're going to be touching some of this up, and that's okay. You know, and like obviously dreadnoughts and stuff like that, you know, like, well, I'm strength 14. Well, you can only wound my tank on 3s, you know, so it's not a huge buff, but it makes a difference, you know, especially when you start looking at like, oh, well, I've got this captain or lieutenant, well, lieutenant or something that lets me reroll wounds. You've now just made them slightly less efficient, and it can be a big difference, you know, and with armies like Tau, where they just have a dirge of strength 8, you know, like just a wealth of it, where they're just like, here's my strength 6, strength 7, strength 8, like everything in my army can just wound most of the game on 2s. Like those are good rules to have. So that was another thing I had looked at. I had a couple guard players shoot me lists and be like, what do you think of this? And I think guard, like I know everybody's like poo poo on them. And I'm sure they are not good competitively. Yeah, exactly. And that has saved your butt a few times. You know, it's kept like mega knobs from wounding you on 2s and stuff. It has been invaluable. Um, you know, but like I was saying, like I I don't know, it's weird, and maybe there's a reason for it. But it seems like most of the competitive lists I've seen have either been Cadians or the custom faction, and the custom faction's usually the one that gives you the Catachan reroll. Which again, that one I understand. You know, it's one of those where I understand that Catachan reroll, and I think it's like heavy weapons are an additional 6 inches in range, is the one I see a lot. But it's interesting because like all your vehicles now have armor of contempt, and if all your vehicles now have armor of contempt, and you have like and there's a lot of infantry buffs now too. Like all the secondaries are kind of predicated around infantry. So I would almost consider running like wilderness survival so that you can have effectively a 4-up save. And it's only going to help you a few turns a game. But man, like if you stack that with take cover or like the wizard, you can have a 3 or a 2-up save. You know, there's ways to get guardsmen just a little bit better. And again, I'm not saying that this is going to make them super competitive. Somebody's probably done this and it didn't work out very well, and that's why they're not running it. When I look at that codex, I just think, man, like I would not be running Cadia. You're not getting enough. Like, I just don't think the relic is worth not getting like a Catachan reroll or something that just makes your army more resilient. Uh, you know, because that's kind of where I see them as like they just don't. I would consider doing the Catachan reroll and then the one that lets you heal. Like that's kind of what I was looking at anyway when I would run guard. But again, now that you have armor of contempt, Like, it might be even more worth it because you should theoretically, especially like your Lehman Russes, be dying less often. Like, if you have a tank commander and he's got a 2-up save, an armor of contempt, and then he's got a, you can give him effectively duty eternal with a tank ace if you wanted to. So it's one of those where he'll get his tank ace, he'll get a 2-up save, he'll get armor of contempt, and you get all that and you add it together, and then now he's also healing in the command phase every turn. Like, it just seems solid. Again, I'm not saying it's going to go like win top tables anywhere, but anything that helps keep your models on the table is good to me. That's kind of where I kind of look at it with that perspective. But again, somebody who probably plays guard more than I have has already probably experimented with that. And they're just like, nah, dude, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. All right. We got a little bit more to do with the Wraithbone, it looks like. Uh, 50 subscribers on YouTube, BT dubs. Actually, we're up to, I think, 53. So that's pretty cool. Oh no, that was not the right color. Oh well. We're committed now. I'm not. I wanted to, but that is my first post-fire tournament that I'm running, so I won't be there. And it's a 1,000 point tournament because there's a lot of like relatively inexperienced players in the area where I live now. So it's just kind of like here's a 1,000 point tournament. We're just going to use 2,000 point rules for everything. I just want to get you guys some experience so that you understand how tournaments work, and I don't want to shift the rules so that they're like, oh, well, this is this game, but now we got to play that game. So I did talk to the guy that's running it. I've spoken to him a lot. He's a super good dude, and I'm gonna try to get to his next one. Like, we're trying to schedule around each other so that we're not stepping on each other's toes. It's just this was my first free weekend that I had that I thought, okay, I could feasibly by this date have what I need to run a solid tournament. So unfortunately, I will not. And I think Tyler's actually coming out to that one as well. That'll be in Chesterton at Reliquary, and they've got a pretty big space. I've already talked to the owner, and they're super welcoming. They were just like, nope, this is awesome. We want you to run events. Come do your thing. Whatever you need, we'll help support you. So what we're doing here is I'm going to run this one, and then I've got 2 more already slated for the rest of the year. I'll have one on October 22nd, and then December 3rd. Yeah, English Bob. Yeah. He is. He's a good dude. Um, I'll have one on October 22nd, and that'll just be a regular 2K. And then my annual doubles tournament in December is on the 3rd. So we're going to have the doubles tournament, and I'll have those events posted here actually probably within the next week or so. But you are correct. English Bob is a cool dude. I don't know if and how I want to shade these. Maybe I just do the flesh and then shade that, and that would make more sense. And then maybe do some, I don't know. Just lost my train of thought. Fuck it. Yep. But yeah, no, he and his wife have been like just awesome people to work with. Like, have just been phenomenal. anything I've needed, they've just been like, all right, let me know and I'll get it. And I'm sure it helps that I've just been like, well, I'm also bringing this, like, hey, we need more terrain. Okay, I'll get more terrain. Okay, but also I'm bringing some as well. I've been able to get, I think I'll be bringing 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 tables worth of terrain in addition to what they already have. And I think we're going to have 10 tables total, so that'll be good. Like, that's going to be a good experience. I talked to Greg's about running tournaments, and they were just like, yeah, bro, get fucked. It was super weird. Like, dude was like really into it at first, but then I was like, well, look, man, I don't mind helping you, and I don't mind coming in and running things and being your judge and TO. But I'm telling you, like, if I'm putting my name on it, you're gonna, like, we have to do it my way. Like, no ifs, no ands, no buts. Like, this is a thing that I've been doing for a few years now. I've kind of developed a system for it. It seems to be working out okay. We need to do it my way. Uh, and that's just kind of where I'm at on it. And once I said that, he was quite literally like, nah, not interested. All right, man. Have fun not running events, I guess. And maybe he will. I don't know. But it was just, like I said, like a super weird interaction. Can't remember the dude's name. Yeah, that was him, Jimmy. That is the guy's name. There's a dude that works there that I don't mind. I've spoken to him quite a few times, and he's actually super nice. Can't think of his name, and honestly, I don't know if I ever really got it. Um, and I'll go there and I'll pick up some paints and stuff because they are right here in town. But like now that reliquary is a thing, if I do make a purchase that I don't want or need or can't for whatever reason use my employee discount for, I'll just get it through reliquary, you know, and I'll still make some purchases here and there through them anyway, just to help support them. Like, I'm not going to be like, I can get this for half price. I'm never going to give you money. Like, they let me come in and they let me play at their store. So there's no reason for me to not buy stuff from them on the, you know, occasions. Yeah, it's weird, Tyler. That's one of those things, like, that's the general consensus I've gotten about that place. Uh, Basically, since Greg's died, I feel like a lot of people just don't enjoy being in there anymore, which is sad. Greg was such a good dude. I obviously knew who he was. He knew who I was because I've been going into that store since I was like, I don't know, 14. It was super awesome, man. I went to the military, disappeared for a few years, and I came back, and I think I was even home on leave, and I hadn't been in there for probably 4 years, and I just stopped in randomly to just kind of, I don't know, buy some magic cards or something. Who knows? Maybe a comic book. And he actually recognized me, sat and had a conversation with me. It was super cool. Greg, yeah, Greg was phenomenal. He was just a genuinely good human being. Agreed. You know, I think we're gonna do the wash on some of these skin tones, and then I think we're gonna call it a day here, fellas. Um, Appreciate everybody coming and hanging out for about an hour, hour and a half. I got a sick kid that's gonna need my attention in a little bit here. Yay, parenting. I love my kids, but I'd also love if they were 18. But I didn't say that. Shit, it's on the internet. Everybody heard it. You talking about at Reliquary? I actually just talked to Christy about that. I guess the rep really sucks, and I can relate. Um, you know, I had that one rep for a while who was just fucking terrible at his job. Uh, and then couple that with like had that rep during COVID, so it just compounded literally everything. So it was just like, this is a terrible experience. This might be too dark. So we may have to go back over some of this with uh, some sort of. I need to get some flesh tone. Pallid witch flesh would be good. But is what it is. I needed to see it. And actually, it might not be that bad once it all dries. Because I know the tones tend to shift a little bit once your paints and stuff dry. But yeah, and it's one of those, like I said, like 100% get it. I've been there on their side of it, and I've been on the receiving end of customers being like, bro, uh, had one dude that was constantly like, why doesn't my stuff ever get here on time? Nobody else's stuff is ever late. First of all, that's not fucking true. Second of all, you know, I'm sorry. Here's the situation. I can't do anything about it. If you don't want to buy it from me, then don't buy it from me. Like, I'm sorry. No, man, and it's one of those where like if if he really was the only person that was having those issues, like he'd have a legitimate complaint. But he wasn't the only person. He's just he was just kind of selfish and didn't want to listen when other people were like, no, this has happened to all of us. And it's not just his store. There are plenty of other stores that are having this problem right now. Yeah, I knew what you meant. Yep, I think that's the last one. Put some wash on here. We'll let these dry. We'll come back later and check on them, see if they're going to need some. I know they're going to need touch-ups. I'm not super worried about that. That's because I didn't follow my normal pattern of how I paint. Like I told you, told everybody this is how I usually do it. And then I didn't do it that way. What a fool. All right. Well, that's going to be it for today. Again, I appreciate everybody hanging out. Jimmy, you keep fighting the good fight and you keep doing all the good accounting. And then Tyler, I will see you maybe tomorrow.